time for New Zealand sporting history now. We do it each Thursday, turn back the clock to chat to people who've made their mark on New Zealand sports. And I don't think we've talked curling in this slot before, so it's long overdue. I'm joined by Sean Becker, former Olympian and curling international. Hi, Sean.
Afternoon, Jesse. How are you?
Good. Really appreciate your time today. Where are you today?
I'm in a little township of Hyde down in central Otago. Well, it's actually in Dunedin, just off central.
And how's the weather?
It's a beautiful 20-degree day with a howling nor'wester. So it must be raining on the west coast.
Gosh, okay. Tell me a bit about the farm.
We're here on a dryland sort of block, running sheep, beef and venison. So we've been out docking calves this morning, or tailing as we say in the South Island, and I've been sorting up some ewes and lambs. Good
stuff. Long way from the curling rink, eh?
Yes, sort of wrong season for it here, but being the southern hemisphere, but the northern hemisphere is just kicking off, going into their winter. So some of our international teams are heading offshore soon to participate.
Great. Well, how did you get into the sport?
Family affair. I'm a fourth or fifth generation curler. Originated in Scotland. Well, for a lot of the family came out from Scotland, and it's just sort of been passed through the generations. Being a farmer in central Otago, when it gets cold and the ice is about, the matches get called, and you inevitably get dragged out and have a great time.
I've mentioned this before on the show. I was lucky enough to be around the Ida Valley once when that was called. Is it the Bonspiel? Is that what they call it when they make that call?
Yeah, that's our big outdoor match, which is the Bonspiel, and you get 48 hours notice when the ice masters declare that there's enough ice to play, and you get to that travel time from wherever you are in New Zealand to get there. Played over 2 days. Each club gets 2 teams, and there's normally around 30 clubs there. And yeah, it's a great couple of days. Even when it's -5 or -6, it's always good fun.
Gee, you wouldn't want to get it wrong as the ice master. I guess they know what they're doing. How do they even work out how thick the ice is?
I think it depends on whether it's black ice, so there's no snow or any imperfections in it, or whether it's if it's snowy ice, it's got to be a bit thicker. They probably need about 6 inches, but yeah, I think it's about 100-110 mil of black ice before they can call the match, knowing that they've got to have a sort of a day clear window as well.
Well, tell me when you started playing seriously and beyond just doing it with your family and locally. When did you start thinking, hey, this is a sport I could actually travel with?
I think I was about 15 or 16, and an international coach. I think he's Canadian, but he was in Germany at the time. He came out as part of a sort of a World Curling Federation demonstration type of thing in some of the smaller nations, and he came out and took a coaching camp in Naseby, just on the outdoor artificial rink, and I loved it. And from there, I got an opportunity with another young curler from New Zealand to head to Scotland and spend a winter in Scotland, which isn't as exciting as it sounds weather-wise, but you meet a lot of great people. Yeah. And it just sort of went from there. I think I did about 5 winters in a row, and just slowly built and learnt the sport through coaching. Came back to New Zealand for a winter, of course, and then back to Canada for another winter after that, and then started playing internationally.
Is it, not wanting to sound gauche, but is there any money in it?
There's a little bit of money starting to become involved in the sport now. There's a wood curling tour, which is a sort of a professional tour. But by the time you divide it between 4 players in your team, and if a New Zealand team had to go, the flights, you wouldn't even pay for the flights out of the winnings from the event. So there's not a lot of money in it for curlers, but it is building. They do have as I said, they do have a sort of a professional tour, and it's gaining notoriety with the media and press, and a lot of the money and funding comes through that way. So the advertising and what have you.
But you did it for the love of the sport, eh?
I did, and I still do. I think when I started playing, I didn't realise what happens when you actually start winning and get to a top level, and the attention and accolades that come with it.
Really?
When you start doing that, you don't, as a young person, you don't strive for that, or that just sort of happens.
Yeah. A lot of people will have seen curling or seen glimpses of it, but it doesn't get a lot of primetime exposure. How do you describe the sport?
It's a little bit like lawn bowls on ice, except instead of throwing a bowl with a bias, you're throwing an 18 to 20 kilo chunk of granite, basically, which is shaped with a small cup on the undersurface. And when you rotate that as you throw it down the ice, and when I say rotate it, it only turns, say, 2.5 to 3.5 times, it just bites a bit. And on a flat curling surface, that is where you get that curl. That's where it comes from.
Yeah, I'd never thought about that, actually. The sport have been named by the shape that the stone takes. Okay, and then, of course, people will have seen the teammates who kind of help you along once you've played your stone.
Yeah, it'd be of all the sports I've played, it would be the most team sport, I would have to say, because every player can affect the stone from when it starts to when it stops. You've got a thrower, so men's and women's opens. There's teams of 4, and each player throws 2 stones alternately with the opposition. So everybody throws, and 2 or 3 of the players sweep, and then you've got the boss at the other end of the rink, who's the skip.
Yeah, that was you, eh?
I tended to be in that position. My sweeper said I was no good at that anyway. So, but the 2 sweepers can affect the stone quite a bit going down the ice. They can't speed it up or slow it down, but they can maintain the line that it's on for a longer period. And good sweep can affect it anywhere from sort of 4, 6 to 8 feet. In distance travelling down the ice, and on quick ice it has been known to be upwards of nearly 12 feet. So the sweepers are very highly involved in the game when you're talking about putting a stone on a point on the ice.
Mm. You're skip, so you're down watching it close up, but do you get to play as well? I mean, you get to play the stones.
I still have to throw my stones. The skip does a lot of the strategical thinking. So as I said, it's like lawn bowls on ice, but if you threw in a bit of chess as well, and being that our target doesn't move, as in bowls, then the head sort of gets built in front, and stones get promoted in, because it's just like for listeners, it's a bit like a dartboard or a target that's on the ice. We call it the house. It's a series of 4 concentric circles going from 2 feet out to 6 feet. And the object of the game is to get more of your stones closest to the centre point of the ice than the opposition, and you score a point for every one of those stones that's closer.
And are there traditions with the sport? I know it came out here from Scotland. Are there, elements of it that date way back, that things you just do as part of the sport?
There is, but once the game moved indoors and onto artificial ice, the game has sort of evolved. The ice became faster. The New Zealand still hangs on, which is great. It still hangs on to the traditions of the older game. And as I said, it's possibly us being an island nation and slightly isolated from the rest of the world. The game didn't evolve as fast, so we've kept up a lot of those traditions, whereas a lot of other countries haven't. So there is a curler's court and some other things which I can't divulge too much information about. But it's a bit like a club.
What do you mean you can't divulge too much info about it?
Oh well, you'd have to go through it yourself to discover what goes on.
Okay, can you give us a hint? It's about the kind of social gathering around curling, is it?
It is, and that's more around the traditional side of the game.
Yeah.
Being inducted into the curling fraternity.
Gosh, okay.
And that's about as much information as I said as I can divulge.
Wow.
If you want to find out, you'd have to join a club and find out yourself.
My producer says it sounds a bit like the Freemasons.
A little bit.
Great. How hard, I'm talking to Sean Becker, curler, how hard was it to get to the 2006 Olympics? That was the first time for New Zealand, I think.
Yes, it was. We went in, I think we tried to get to, I'm not even sure which, we tried to qualify for Nagano first and we weren't good enough at that time, but it was a great learning experience. And from there, we basically had an 8-year plan, knowing that we weren't good enough to get into probably the first Olympics. Curling earns points through previous World Curling Championships. So the 3 previous World Championships leading up to an Olympics earns points for your country. And we qualified in 2004 in Gävle, in Sweden, and I think it was 2005 in Victoria, and earned enough points to get New Zealand into the 10th spot at the Olympic Games. So it was, I'm not sure how many trips overseas, because every one of those World Championships had qualifying events somewhere around the world as well, and most of it was out of personal funded. Yeah. Personally funded.
A lot of sacrifice, money and personal sacrifice too.
Yes, so we have 4 members and a spare and a reserve, and at the time we had a coach too. So, shipping 4 people around the world, 6 people in effect around the world 2 or 3 times a year. There was a lot of sacrifice from family, friends, and employers. Just giving us, the time to go away and do it. And I mean, it's for a New Zealander, it's probably a once in a lifetime experience, being able to get there. And I know some of the young curlers are aspiring nowadays to try and repeat that feat. So,
but I think you're a bit disappointed with how you went at the Olympics.
Yeah, we had a few personal issues within the team at the time, and just didn't quite gel as well as we should, and that happens in team sport. It's just a shame it sort of happened leading up into probably the biggest event that we'd be playing in. But we'd been getting better and better at World Championships, getting higher in the rankings leading up to it, and maybe just as a team we'd been together a while. But as I said, just a few personal conflicts really within the team.
Oh, what a bummer!
And, we just didn't play and gel as a team very well at the event itself. And there's a lot of hype and as you said, personal sacrifice and things, and each player's different in what they have to sacrifice. So. Yeah, it was a learning. Let's just put it down to a learning experience. I would have loved to have gone to another one. Maybe in the future as a coach or something, I might be able to do that.
You got to be the flag bearer. That's pretty special.
Amazing, just unbelievable to wear the cloak out there. It wasn't a very warm night, being winter in Italy. But yes, just unbelievable, and the support from all the team members there, not only my team members but all the other competitors in the New Zealand team. It was, yes, as I said, it was just a once in a lifetime experience.
What is your career highlight then? Is it that moment at the Olympics, or was it one of your successes at the World Champs?
Well, that would be right up there, but possibly it's alongside. I competed in a new event, started I think in about 2008, the World Mixed Curling Championships, which is 2 players on a team, and I competed in that with my sister and my brother, and was along as coach, or a supporter and coach, and my father as coach and manager, and we managed to win a silver medal at the World Championships, and I think it was 2010 in Chelyabinsk in Russia, in the middle of Russia. So you get to travel to a lot of far off and exotic places, but central Russia in the middle of winter is not very warm, I can tell you.
Gosh, yeah. How cool to be competing with your sister, though.
Yeah, it's been a family affair, and I've got two brothers and a sister, and two of us curl competitively, and she gets to decide each year who she plays with, which brother she decides she likes that year to go away and compete with.
It must be quite different if it's the two of you. Is one of you sweeping for the other?
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a skip in the head when you're actually in the house. You can choose to just have a sweeper, or you can have somebody, that person can hold the broom at the other end. So it's just they've tried to develop a new game, and it's at the Winter Olympics now. I think the top 8 nations in the world, and we've actually got a young couple, Ben and Jess Smith, another brother-sister partnership, heading away next week to Dumfries in Scotland to compete for New Zealand, and that's a qualifying event to qualify into the World Champs.
Sorry if this is an ignorant question, but do you have to train much to be a curler? Is it a physical sport?
There is. The modern game is, especially the sweeping. If anybody can imagine applying pressure to a broom and sweeping hard, very fast, or as fast as you can for 15 to 20 seconds, taking a 40-second break and then doing it again, and then doing that for 2.5 hours, you can appreciate that there's a lot of upper body strength involved, and a lot of balance in the slide, because you slide 10 to 12 yards down the ice with the stone, pushing the stone. So yes, there is a lot of. Because I worked physically on the farm, I didn't really need a gym membership to do weights or anything. But we trained. Not as much as the young ones do these days, but we trained sweeping, and I would have been practicing getting into an event probably anywhere from half an hour to an hour every day, 6 days a week. So not highly physically demanding, but when you get to that top level, there's a lot of emotion and mental side of things as well that you need to practice for. So you've sort of got to have that physical side built up for that too.
Hey, so we've talked about some of your successes, some of your sporting successes, but you've also won an international award, the Collie Campbell Memorial Award. You've won this 3 times, this international award?
You've obviously been doing your homework pretty well. That's an award at the World Curling Championships, which is voted on upon by your peers. For the best sportsman it's a sportsmanship award basically, and I think to this date I'm the only person in the world that's won it 3 times.
That's great.
And I think I did it basically from complimenting players on their game. At that high level, they don't do that a lot, and at the first championships I quite often would go and sit with the other team and have a yarn to them after the game. So that's part of the tradition that I was brought up with in curling New Zealand, but once you get to the high level, that's sort of not seen too much. They all go away and do their wee team talks, and basically the only time you see each other is at a social function or during the game. So yeah, I got to know a lot of great people through the sport, and I suppose it's the Nice Guy Award. I'm pretty privileged to have won that a couple of times.
Fantastic. What have you loved most about the sport?
The competitiveness, and a lot of the people you meet very like-minded from all different walks of life and occupations. But I think at that top level, they've all got that desire to win. And I really enjoyed that part of the game, just trying to outthink the opposition, place stones, and to be able to get those stones in those positions. And the people I've played with and the teams I've been with, you have to get on really well with your teammates when you live, breathe, and you're spending all that time together when you're away on tour.
Do you know what I'm talking about if I say the word Broomgate?
You have been doing some homework. Yes, I do. I wasn't involved in it, but I think my brother and sister were at that event, or the event that sort of started that.
Tell us what happened.
There was no standard broom under the rules. So some of the teams or countries basically discovered that if they put a different material on the bottom of their broom, it affected the way the stone travelled down the ice. So you can imagine, you might have heard of that Australian who had a wee bit of sandpaper in his pocket.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like that, but there was no rule against it in the game, so it wasn't in the best interests of the game. But as I said, they discovered material that could affect the line of it could slow it down basically, and it could change the direction quite a bit more violently than what the broom heads that are used now and the synthetic material that has to be used. So the officials now go through and check all the brooms, and all the broom heads signed off prior to the event starting. It was just there was a gap in the rules there that they hadn't discovered, and people took advantage of it basically.
Fair to say that would have been the biggest scandal to affect curling?
Possibly, yes. It's the biggest one in the modern era that I can think of.
You going to stick with it as a coach?
I still really enjoy the game. I enjoy it socially and competitively. With a younger family, and I can't spend the time that I used to in the game. Although I'm involved in the administration a little more now, and I always said I wouldn't get involved in that until I'd finished my competing. Although I do have a certain birthday coming up next year, which entitles me to start into a new age bracket of competition. So I become a young person again.
Yeah, that'll be pretty tempting.
Yeah, I have been getting a few emails and things from overseas saying, "When you must be just about due to make the seniors."
Yeah. Yeah, you and I are about almost exactly the same age. Wonder if there's anything I can start competing in when I have that birthday month after you next year. I have to have a look.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Sean. It's been great to talk to you. Thanks so much for introducing us to your sports and for giving us a bit of an inside view on what it's like to play at a top level.
Oh, that's been great. Great talking to you, Jesse.
Nice chat. Sean Becker on curling today in New Zealand sporting history.